Matthew. All right, well, thank you so much for having us this morning. I'm not going to say a whole lot, and I'm sure you want to really hear from our local district superintendents. We've changed the format a little bit this year. In years past, I've stood up and shared a lot about what's going on in education, but we wanted to invite some of our local district superintendents to come in and talk about what's happening in their districts and how they're handling COVID. And as you know, it's probably the most challenging year that we've had in public education, at least in my tenure. And these folks are working so hard, and I think it's a great opportunity for them to share what's happening there. So I'll just introduce the four of them, and then I'll give them an opportunity to share a little bit with me here. To my left, I have Kelly Tuller. Kelly is the superintendent at Mason Consolidated Schools. To her left, I have Sandy Krebs. Sandy is the superintendent at Ida Public Schools. We have Val Orr. Val is the superintendent at Whiteford Agricultural Schools, my old stomping grounds. And then we have Michael Petty. Michael is the superintendent at Jefferson Schools. So before we get into the questions and the answer section of our presentation, I'm going to have Kelly say a few words, and then we'll move on down, and then we'll get into the questions. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
I'd like to first thank all of you for the invite here today. As a green superintendent, lots of folks are saying I chose the best year to come into education as the leader here. I am excited to be at Mason Consolidated Schools, where there are a lot of opportunities that we can build on for our students. Our career and tech program with construction trades, we're building a robotics program. We're going to continue to expand our direct college and dual enrollment opportunities for all of our students. I have had the great pleasure of the mentorship of Val Orr for the past 5 years as a principal at Whiteford Agricultural Schools, formerly there for 13 years. So excited to take all of those good personal and professional experiences and apply them to the students here at Mason Consolidated Schools, as well as work with all of you and my colleagues here in Monroe County. Thank you.
Board meeting last night with our technology. We're trying to be live streamed. Hi, I'm Sandy Krebs. Thank you for the invite today. And I'm just really proud to represent education today, not just for Ida Public Schools, but for our whole county and our nation. We're all facing the same challenges. Our families are. The beautiful thing about Ida that I'm really coming to enjoy, it's my second year there, is the close-knit community, especially through this time because it's taking all of us to handle this pandemic. The parents have stepped up incredibly with the at-home instruction. The teachers have they can't do enough. I have to tell them sometimes to just relax and we'll get through this. The students have just been incredible. Face masks are new to them, and there's just been absolutely no pushback. It's just been business as usual in that, but not really, I guess, to be honest. And we'll share more about that now. But again, thanks for the invite, and I'm just excited to be here today.
Try your mic.
Thank you, Sandy. New world, wiping off microphones before we talk. I'm Val Orr. I am from Whiteford Agricultural Schools, and we are in the midst of some crazy stuff going on this year. There's no doubt about it. I've been an administrator for over 15 years. I've actually lost count at this point, probably more than that, but this is by far the most challenging year that I've ever experienced in public education. We at Whiteford have been really proud. We actually have been full in-person instruction 5 days a week since the beginning of the school year, and just been really proud of the staff, the students, and the parents of Whiteford that have really come together to do everything they can to follow safety protocols, our mitigation strategies, and just do whatever was necessary to keep kids in school. Fortunately, right now things are just too difficult in the county to keep the doors open, and I'm made the difficult decision on Saturday evening to go full remote at Whiteford. So we were really hanging on to hope, but we did make it through our first quarter of learning. That ended on Friday, so it actually was a good and a bad time at the same time to go full remote. But we really benefited being a small school district like Ida. We're even smaller than that. We benefited from that smallness in order to create a plan that allowed us to open our doors in the fall. But that same benefit of being a small, tight-knit community actually was the downfall of our school when we got a single case. So when you have an interconnected community of parents and staff who have kids in the district and parents who work in the district and all those fun things, when you get a case and you start doing the contact tracing, it's pretty quickly you see that it will close the doors of an entire school district. So we learned that this weekend. We're committed to reopening the Monday after Thanksgiving. Really hoping that we're in a better place in the county by then, and we can get our kids back in school, which I know every superintendent on the panel is committed. But even when our kids are at home remote, I think our staff is doing an amazing job of trying to create learning environments that benefit our students, all of our students in the county. So I think if you're sending your child to a school in Monroe County, you can be really proud of what's happening right now, because you couldn't have more dedicated professionals committed to children. So I'm just glad to be a part of that.
Wiping off your cooties. Who would think of all the things I learned in kindergarten, staying away from cooties would be the thing that would benefit me. Good morning, everybody. Mike Petty from Jefferson Schools, and it's my privilege to lead what we call the Bear Nation out on the shores of Lake Erie. Like these ladies have discussed, we do have as well a tight-knit community. Fortunately, we've been able to hang on by fingernails right now to keep everything going, and we're going to potentially, the plan is next week to actually go to 4 days of instruction versus 2 on and 2 off. And right now our numbers are fitting that we would carry on with that. So that is the plan. And even though in the midst of everything going on, the commitment to education in this county is just amazing. I think these folks up here on the stage, plus our other colleagues, that really be in my support group. When something's going on, we'll send a text at 2 in the morning or 10 at night, and everybody's responding, and we really are a total support group. And like these fine leaders have said up here as well, I can't stress enough how much my staff has done. Bus drivers, cafeteria workers, teachers, admin, the whole team has really come together to really make sure our kids are at the forefront. And it's this word is in every school district. I have absolutely no doubt. So being that I'm on my 26th year, and I just say that 26 years just to make Mrs. Krebs feel old, since she was my health teacher before that. So I make the dig. I tried to do that just because we love and Sandy's 13, so this is fantastic in there. But we are really I look at all of our school districts, all of our leaders. We are very much with Dr. McNew's leadership, leaders in the state in some of the things that we do and some of the things that we are. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because I just had a son that graduated in the midst of all this, and I have one that will graduate a year and a half from now, probably still in the midst of this, and couldn't be prouder of the work that we do.
So we've heard from all 4 of our local district superintendents. I have some questions for you, and I'll start with Kelly, and then we'll just work our way down. How has instructional education looked for Mason Consolidated Schools since the start of the school year?
Well, we are a very unique plan and program that we decided and agreed upon for our return to learn. Mason students come to school 5 days a week, but for part of the school day. After reviewing the roadmap that the governor and the advisory council put out, looking at all mitigation strategies and instructional and transportation and whatnot, we realized that we could not follow all of those because we do have smaller buildings, we share a building for lunch, but we had 2 priorities. Number 1, we wanted to see our students every single day, and the second priority was to make sure that anyone on our campus remained safe and healthy. How could we do that? And we learned that if by going part of a day, our students go from approximately 7:30 to noon or 8 until 1 if you're in the elementary, and then they go home and have their lunch at home, and they have a quick break period. The teachers have lunch and planning, and then for the last instructional hour of the day, all students are on remotely for support. So all of our teachers jump on remotely to teach the kids and support them. We have 30% of our student population has chose to have the second option of full remote instruction. And I do believe that number is a little bit higher. The norm across the United States is 1/3, so we're below that. However, I think sometimes when you're facing some hardships of childcare, that increases the number. But we kept all of that in mind and increased our services for childcare. But by doing so, we've been able to really touch base and see our kids' social emotional needs as well as their academic needs as well. We too are hanging on by a thread every single hour. We wonder if we're going to have to close our doors. Like Val, I'm having staffing issues because students are quarantined and most of these things are happening from outside exposure. We've done extremely well within our buildings when you're bringing large groups together, and the case numbers are not increasing necessarily within the building. It's the quarantine and the quarantine of staff or that they need to remain home with their students. So we continue to say daily it's only a matter of time, but we continue to plug forward and tighten every protocol that we have to the top level. We felt that we were pretty tight, and we know we were learning some things along the way. But I do appreciate the support of all the leaders within the county, especially as a new superintendent. I have told them that I'm right in line. I feel like I'm a veteran soup with all of them because none of us have experienced this, so we're experiencing it together. And the supports of the ISD and Dr. McNew, the mental health team, and all of those folks that help us with those legal issues too. When you're talking about staffing and closing and it's impacting the hardship of your staff and your families, you definitely want to do right by them. And I'm very excited that we continue to do so. We're hoping for let's get to Thanksgiving, get a little break, and then we can continue to evaluate. But it certainly is a different model than others have, but it's what meets our district best.
As Kelly said, each of our plans are catered to our school. So those listening understand how much we wanted to do the same plan at the onset. We were on a Zoom and talking about it, and could we do it? And the final decision was we had put out surveys to our communities to find out what they wanted and what fitted our community, and all of our results were different. At Ida, 87% wanted to be face-to-face in person. And the MySafe plan from the state of Michigan had guidelines for us for social mitigation. So we knew at Ida to have all the kids on campus, that 87, and now it's 89%. 89% on campus, we could socially mitigate in the classrooms, in the cafeteria, on the buses, and on the playgrounds. So we chose AB hybrid, where it's every other day. So they only go 4 days total without seeing someone at school from Wednesday or Thursday on. They see their teachers. It was important to our residents and to our teachers to have their own students in that classroom. And then to do distance learning on the days they weren't in school. And to be family friendly, we assigned families to A or B day and then let them switch according to work schedules on what, if it Monday, Wednesday combo worked, Tuesday, Thursday. So all of us, all the superintendents have tried to build as much into the schedule for options for families as we can to make it as family friendly as possible. So with the hybrid system, the full staff reports Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, then on Friday they're available for additional distance learning. And some teachers are doing interventions that day. To help with the connectivity issues in our district, all the superintendents have worked this very hard as far as making sure all students are resourced with technology and hotspots if they need it. We have learning labs open 5 days a week, and we have transportation and food available for students that want and need to be there on their off rotation. So we've tried to address the more intense academic needs. And we have special things in place for our students with individual plans and 504. So we've tried to step up for all our students, as each of us, if each one of the superintendents, if they were here today, would be telling you what we're doing for our students that could fall through the cracks if we're not cognizant of that. It's a lot of work, and it takes the whole team. The bus drivers are on call for those special runs. Our assistants, we have one assistant specifically designated to 2 students that really need the social interaction. She makes contact every day with them while they're on virtual. Because the virtual students, we have at this point 11%. We didn't have the numbers some of the other districts had for virtual. So that, again, increased our numbers on campus and trying to make sure that they have their teacher with that rotation. So it's been a challenge, but it's also been a privilege to really reinvent what we need to do in these times and how much you really can achieve when everybody's working at it together. That's been the silver lining to this. Of course, we'd rather be back 5 days a week, back to what's been our norm. But we're going to come out of this stronger because we've gotten stronger with technology. Our millage has helped us over and over again, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. You know, the teamwork with the soups, sharing between districts, helping out with food plans if somebody needs to close for a couple days. Just the camaraderie around the county. We really are one working at this, and that's been really a privilege.
Yeah, like everyone has said, I think every individual school district, because we're trying to be good servant leaders who serve the communities that we represent, all of our plans are a little different. When Whiteford did our survey, we found that more than 90% of our families wanted to be in person. So at first that was a pretty daunting number in terms of worrying about whether or not we were going to be able to socially distance and implement mitigation strategies when we knew we were going to have over 90% of our students on campus. But we were able to figure it out, and we do have those kind of numbers full in person up until this past weekend when we needed to close. So we built cohorts of students, K-8. So our students were put in classes of less than 23 students, and those students stay together all day. And the hope was that if we did get a positive case, that we would only have to quarantine the small cohort of students. Unfortunately, it did not work out that way because of the way the cases came in. So we are cohorting our students. They are going out on the playground at different times. So we have a separate recess schedule. We have a separate lunch schedule. Students eat lunches in their classroom, and their specials teachers. Previous to this year, students from the elementary would walk over to the middle school, high school, because we share the same campus, and they would take their specials classes in the big school, the kids called it, and it was really cool to see the littles and the bigger kids interact throughout the school day. It was one of the things that makes Whiteford special. However, we are keeping the kids in their own separate buildings, and instead of the students moving to different classrooms throughout the day, they're staying put, and their teachers are pushing in to teach them band, music, art, STEM. Those things are happening within their classroom that they're already in. And then we have different spaces on the playground that the kids are able to kind of go to their particular area on the playground. We've significantly we added a lunch period at the middle school, high school to get the numbers down during lunches. And we are using our outdoors more than I have ever seen before. So we actually, we're so blessed by the weather this year. I always say God has a special place in his heart for Whiteford right now because the weather has been unbelievable. And we have held many lunches outside. We do our mass breaks outside. And we actually have an exterior, we're only one floor, so we don't have any second story buildings, and every single classroom has an exterior door. So the kids will, when they pass from class to class at the middle school, high school, They don't pass through interior hallways, so we don't have loads of kids together in hallways. They go out their exterior door and they pass on the exterior. So if you walk, or if you drive by Wafer during the day, you'll see a whole bunch of kids on the outside of our facility going to their next class. And I gotta tell you, it's been the unexpected ray of sunshine as the kids are loving being outside so much. And so I think even when COVID is over, whatever that looks like, we'll probably continue to pass on the exterior of our building. We'll probably continue to have outdoor lunch and do those kind of things that the kids are starting to really enjoy and look forward to, that we just didn't realize how much that they would, you know, it seems like, well, of course, now when you think about it, of course the kids would want to be outside, but they're loving that part. So we are giving our families an option to come back to full in-person for the second semester. I'm a little worried about what that may look like because I'm worried about the numbers. I'm assuming that we're going to have a lot of our virtual families, even though we only have 10% of them at home, that we may have at least half of them want to come back to in-person for second semester. And then we're not quite sure what that's going to look like and whether or not we're going to be able to accommodate social distancing with that. So fingers crossed. We had some good news coming out of Pfizer yesterday that I'm hoping helps us, but we are going to school 5 days a week. We're going to take a temporary pause right now. And the hope is that we'll be able to come back on the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Jefferson. I want that duly noted that Mrs. Orr is shutting it. Well, they'll make you run both districts. You know how that works. There's been nothing. For what we're doing at Jefferson, I wouldn't be adding anything new to the conversation here, other than the tail end of Val's conversation about coming back. We did ours in a 9-week increment, so our coming back is literally Monday. So we're watching it every day. The plan is still in sync to try to do that. But the one thing that each of these leaders up here mentioned is just something that I can hone in on as I'm listening to that. This has forced us to think outside of the box. This has forced us to tear the box down, rebuild it, reshift it. And we are able still to continue and, dare I say, expand programming in our buildings because of this. Val's example of going outside on the class change. We have staggered class changes. My son is in an auto shop class, and they're having class outdoors, so they can still get their hands dirty. They're spaced out. They're in a little, they call it the prison area when they bring the gate across in there, but it's the outdoor shop lot, if you will. Band is outside on a regular basis. Regular classrooms are outside on a regular basis, and I think the whole programming concept, we've been able to not only maintain but expand through all this, and I think that's just duly notable. It goes to show the passion of education, not only in my district but amongst all of our districts in there. But we've done the same thing. We're looking at about an 80-20 split. We'd have 80% of the kids on campus, and it's literally, I believe, hitting our capacity in so many ways to be as socially distanced as possible. School buses, we've had to literally say that we're about as distanced as you can be on the school buses. If you have a concern about that, folks, you probably need to transport your children to school, which is something I don't like saying, but that's just the reality of where we're at there. Elementaries are eating in classrooms or outside. So I think we've been doing a lot of thinking outside the box and making it work with that.
Before I ask the next question, I do want to mention that I have to sing the praises of the Monroe County Health Department. We communicate with them every Monday morning. Kim Comerzon and her staff have been nothing short of amazing. We are in communication with them. Not only do superintendents talk at 2 o'clock in the morning, but we also communicate with Kim Comerzon and the Health Department at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I just wanted to put a plug in for them. The next question that I have really focuses on technology. This is a renewal year. We will be seeking the 5th renewal of our Technology Enhancement Village on May 4th, 2021. And I want to talk about the power of technology and what has that allowed us to do during these times, these unprecedented times. And so Sandy, I'll start with you. If you'd like to share a little bit about what IDA's doing with the technology, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Prior to COVID, we were predominantly using it for Chromebooks, equipment, software, educational instruction for our students with the use of technology, which was and is still so valuable. So that's continuing. When COVID hit, we were working toward one-to-one with not so much, our curriculum emphasis is a little bit different than some of the other schools with one-to-one, but we were working toward that. We'd set a strategic plan within our admin team, and then COVID happened and we went into full-blown on steroids to escalate it and to make sure all homes were resourced, and the students had not only the computers. This is where the AB has really helped us. We only need half the Chromebook on the carts when they're in the classrooms. So we could still have the on-site needs, but they could have them at home for their distance learning days. So we really stepped up being able to resource the families that way. And that really is a beautiful thing because that was our goal, but we did it at a quicker rate. And really since March, I think I was on with 2 superintendents last week, and between the 3 of us, we'd had 3 weeks or weekends off since COVID started. Nobody was complaining. It's just been the intensity of keeping things moving, and I'm sure the 3 with me this morning would say the same thing. So, and the whole staff, I mean, it's not just, the teachers are working harder, everyone's working harder at this. So the technology monies were just so valuable because we've really been a good steward of them, keeping a little bit of a balance in there just for rainy day. So, and this was our rainy day. And we were able to we haven't had to say no to anything that we've needed to do for our students, technology-wise, because of the millage. And I just can't say enough to say thank you to the whole community for having supported that so faithfully. And our board voted last night to be a part of the upcoming millage as well. They see the need and have so appreciated as well.
I would echo everything that Sandy said. I don't want to bore everyone by repeating it. We have the same use and same benefits, see the same benefit. What I would say about the tech millage is that I've had the benefit of working in another county as an administrator and as well as a teacher. And until I got to Monroe County, technology and access to technology was a gift and not something that was so readily available. And when I came to Monroe County, my career started at Monroe High School as a high school principal, and I was shocked at the access to technology and the benefit that it had for students. And I just appreciated it in a way because I know as an administrator in another county that kids in that county just didn't have that access. And so I think, how many years have we renewed the tech millage now, Steve? Since 97. So when there's a millage on the ballot and you have had something for so many years, I think sometimes we, not us, I think we all really recognize the benefit. But sometimes though, the community doesn't necessarily know the benefit. And I'm here to tell you, as someone who's worked in multiple counties, that the technology millage is single-handedly one of the most precious gifts that this community has given to its children. And we use it. It goes directly to students. It benefits them significantly. And I think if our kids did not have it, they would be at a significant disadvantage to students in other counties. So I'm just here to say thank you for it and to acknowledge the gift that it truly is.
And I couldn't reiterate enough. He tried to fix it.
Keep talking in it.
I can't reiterate enough what's been said so far. By default, by keeping a hold of some of the older Chromebooks that were meant to be cycled out this year, we were able to go one-to-one. Our littles, even kindergarten and first grade, using iPads maybe versus a Chromebook, but everybody had a machine, and that was just been phenomenal. And then out our way, out Jefferson's way, sometimes connectivity becomes an issue in there, and we've had some gifts, not only from the Tech Millage, the Community Foundation, making sure we were able to work solely on connectivity with people at home. And once again, thinking outside of the box on that, we were able to get some hotspots, but we were looking at making a couple school buses, mobile hotspots in our high school parking lot. And we still actually have plans in place for it to become a place where people, a drive-in spot where people can do that there. But I just couldn't imagine trying to get through this time. When I went to a couple of Zoom conferences or worked with some colleagues outside of Monroe County, and the minute they say, oh, you're from Monroe County, you have the tech money. Well, I mean, that's been a gift of our community, for 20 plus years, that it like it's been said here, it goes directly to our kids. It goes directly to those kids. It impacts them on a daily basis. And it's just so important and so integral that we have that. And like these kind ladies have said so far, I can't thank the community enough for that.
I too want to echo my appreciation for the voters since 1997 with the Technology Millage, as well as the Monroe County Community Foundation and all the business partners for the connectivity drive that they have for all of our students. It's just a testament to everyone in Monroe County, what they know is important to keep the kids educated and keep things running as smoothly as possible. Just to be completely frank, without this, we wouldn't have been able to do our plans whatsoever. If you turn on the TV any given day, you learn, especially in the beginning of the reopening of schools, that schools could not do this outside of Monroe County, and we could not have done this if we didn't have these supports for our students, as well as our staff. Our staff has learned baptism by fire on some of the programs and things that we have to offer, but they have been rock stars, and I think you guys have heard throughout the closure in March, planning for instruction in a day and delivering it. It gave a sneak peek for families to get into classrooms, and it elevated the profession during that time, and our teachers continue to have that drive forward. So we continue to be able to use that for synchronous or asynchronous learning. So kids are having live lessons. We're able to see the students. As I said, the social emotional supports and checking in are so important. We're understanding what's happening, but we've also had a peek into their homes as well and seeing the needs that they may have beyond what we know on a daily basis and the front that they may put on for us. So I thank all of you and look forward to what we're able to do with the Technology Millage. Hopefully we'll have that future support and we can keep driving in instruction.
A couple superintendents mentioned the Community Foundation. I want to thank Kathy Russo for taking the lead on raising funds to help our schools with connectivity. We have several areas in the community that there just isn't internet access. The Community Foundation, DTE, Lazy Boy, First Merchants Bank, Michigan College Access Network, and Connie Carroll. I know Connie is in the packed house today, so I just wanted to mention the United Way, Illinois, Monroe counties for their support in that area as well. At last count, I believe they've raised in excess of $100,000 to help schools with connectivity issues, so we want to make sure that we acknowledge them as well. The third question that I have, and final question for our superintendents, and I'll start with Val, is what mental health resources exist, and how have you worked with your staff, your parents, the community, your students in that particular area? I know that's a huge concern of all of ours, so what have you done there?
I think we can talk about what have we done collectively as a county, because I know that the ISD has taken the lead on creating a mental health team prior to COVID, and I think it was a blessing that that work had already began, considering the extreme amount of social emotional support need that exists right now. We talk about the impact of COVID in terms of quarantining in cases and distance learning and remote learning and the impact that it's had on children academically, but I don't know if people really have a clear handle on the impact that it's had on not only
only children's mental health, but also adults' mental health. I've seen it decline significantly. The need for that social emotional support is the highest it's ever been in my career, and we have a team of individuals that work out of the ISD right now that support the 9 locals in our social emotional support that we give our children. At Whiteford particularly, we have always had a part-time counselor for both buildings. Our school district has about 750 students, K-12, and we were working with a part-time counselor. Over the last 5 years, we not only have a full-time counselor in the district, but we actually have them for each building now. So it's really, I think that shows how much that need has grown and how much, and then we're also doing more in the classrooms. We're doing more social emotional skill development with our students. We're trying to be proactive instead of reactive. So we're trying to teach kids from very, very early on skills that they need to be able to cope with situations as they arise. And then most recently, and I've been pretty passionate about this myself, is really starting to attack the decline in our profession and just how much support our teachers and our support staff who are working with high-need children on a daily basis in high-need circumstances, and the emotional toll it's taking on their well-being and their social-emotional health. And so we've been doing a lot and working with the folks at the ISD to really talk about how we can support our staff. And one of the challenges I think that it's important for everyone to know is that we cannot spend district resources on social-emotional health of our staff. And that has been a real challenge for me, is that when I want to do something in that area for my staff, it is not appropriate to use general fund dollars for that. So we really don't have resources to support the social-emotional health of our staff. And it's all about fundraising and ways that we can fundraise for those dollars. So we're creative with the mental health team at the ISD in terms of supporting our staff, but any kind of overt initiatives to support the mental health of teachers and support staff, we don't have the resources for. And I think it's something that the state needs to change, because if we want to keep good teachers in the classroom and good support staff in the classroom, and we don't want them to burn out, we're going to need to address the fact that that their mental health matters, which it does.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's muted because it's crackling.
I got pretty passionate during that last one. Who knows? I'm just saying.
Well, I was going to say, who's actually, I'm going to say what Val said.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, but what Val said next. You know, the only thing I would add on top of that, 3 years ago at Jefferson, we started creating an intense student support network of social workers, counselors, academic interventionists. It's a whole team of people, and we came up with several plans. We re-upped our traumatic events plan. All of these things that we hope would sit on the shelf and get dusty. And lo and behold, last spring, boy, did it have to come out in a hurry. It just seemed like the ink was dried on it, and boy, we were activating that really quick, working with friends at the ISD. And fortunately, one of Dr. McNew's members was one of our original founders of this team, so that connection, the closeness, the working together. I tried to be nice about it. I tried to be nice about it. Okay, he stole Danielle Handler. We'll talk about that later. But the advantage of that is, and Margot and Ryan and any of them walk into our buildings, our people know who they are. They know they're there for a purpose. When we have a kiddo go off of the grid and we can't find them and we need some help, those are the folks we can turn to. And like I said, my hope was this would sit there with a couple other plans, especially out in my neck of the woods. You have to keep out there, and it just gets dusty and comes out every 10 years when FEMA comes in to reevaluate it. But I'm glad we had it. I'm glad we had the support. I'm glad that the branch now into helping support our staff. The demands on the staff on trying to maintain school families is just immense, beyond, I think, anyone's imagination. And for parents, I think some of the resources that have come out there, if I hear one common theme out of parents, they're frustrated. They love their kids, they love what everyone's doing, but they've also hit their capacity as well. And I think the support's that, and we don't have enough support, no doubt about it, but the ones that we've had, we can get to the staff and we can get to the parents, with still keeping our students at the forefront. That right there is our greatest ticket, our greatest avenue to have, to maintain and grow student achievement during this time.
Again, I'm going to echo what the other two had said. Pre-pandemic, it already was a priority, mental health supports for students and staff, and I too echo the appreciation for the ISD in making that one of the priorities of their district as well. Just knowing that we can reach out when needed gives you peace of mind. However, what we know right now is the increase of needs for students and staff alike because of the pandemic, with social isolation alone. So, pre-pandemic, we grouped students together. We high-fived. Not allowed to do that. We hugged a kid, patted a kid on the back. Now it's everybody face forward, pull your mask up. You're too close to him. So we're creating, getting chills on this part, we're really creating a situation for health and safety that has increased the mental health needs of all, including administrators, staff, students alike. And those needs have increased to where we can't do it alone, and the ISD continues to help, but we need the help of all. And, we are isolating ourselves, but how can we connect in a way to continue to do what we have to do, but also reconnect with people? And we're doing that via Zoom. I don't know how many of you had social hours or happy hours during the closure when everybody had to stay home, but now we're getting very worried as numbers increase, and we're to isolate ourselves even more as the holidays approach. I think, just in general, we do know that supports are needed more around those holidays, but now when we can't gather with family or friends, we know that we're going to have to continue to reach out. The team at Mason Consolidated has been outstanding. They have created a wellness resource center within the district in the schools, as well as online for parents, preparing them to return their students to school, or how do you teach and help support in a virtual setting. So parents are learning, how to be those academic supports and they never have before. Or if we're quarantined, what does that mean? When we send out a notification, which may be once or twice a week about a positive case, the anxiety level goes up, the phone starts ringing for our front offices because families are worried. So we're prepared to really help and continue to support as we do that, but we need all of you. We continue to need the ISD and ourselves, as we knew that was the priority pre-pandemic.
As I listen to my colleagues, I'm reminded in so many of our meetings what we're fighting so hard for to stay open is so students can have that contact at school. As Kelly said, it's modified because of these times, but it's so important to be face-to-face. You can't replace that. When I was at Monroe High, I was given a charge one year to do virtual learning for expelled students. I had 20. And it was when it was just taking off to do the remote learning. And everyone said that I want to be face-to-face. And then as a principal at Monroe High, we had a couple options for students to be virtual. And during the school day where they could go to the learning lab there, take a class from Michigan Virtual, and learn. Every time the students preferred to be in the classroom face-to-face with that teacher. They only chose that option if there wasn't something available for them. So we knew going into this, virtual is a nice option, but it is not the number one school of choice, preference for parents, for us as educators. And number one reason is the social, emotional, mental piece. People are built for interaction and just to connect with one another. And at the end of the day, that's what we're fighting for, to keep the kids in school, and how can we do that? And at the board meeting last night, I said, I'm thankful for every day we have with those students face-to-face. I saw a difference in them when they got back to school, just to I think graduation, we did a drive-in graduation. It's the nicest graduation I've ever been to because I hadn't seen the kids, they hadn't seen each other. The energy, the parents were appreciative, the grandparents, everybody was together. And at IDA, that's what helped us from March to June. There is so much, as Val has said, and I know it's the case for Jefferson because I've lived it. I haven't had the privilege at Mason, but I've heard it similar. Our communities are so tight-knit that everybody came together to help from March to June. And because of those established relationships, we probably got through the social emotional piece better than some, but it wasn't great. And we saw the decline in people's mental attitudes, including our staffs. And we've been working hard from that end as well. And I've been doing as much, my role has become stronger with our staff than the students. And then I try to strengthen the staff as all superintendents do so they can do that in turn for their students and provide that support. Something that we do curriculum-wise that we take for granted. I was a school counselor for years and I saw the benefit of the arts, the choir, the band, the CTE programs, the hands-on programs. Those are our curriculum's outreach for social, emotional, mental health because our students that struggle sometimes in the other classes, the poor classes, just accelerate in those classes and they were at a disadvantage being at home. So the virtual learning from March to June, the art and the music was just tearing the parents up. How can we have time for that after the math? So we took on a new approach, as we all did, treat it as their mental health. It's just participation. If they just get out of the house and they're active. If they just, music is therapy. If just, do that music piece. You don't have to be a vocalist. We even had our choir doing virtual things and our sports just to keep that interaction, virtually. So the social, emotional, mental piece, that's how we're trying to get through this pandemic. It's not pretty. It's not our ideal. And as we're all doing on our websites, if you go to our websites, there's resources on our websites for community outreach. Our virtual, we're trying to do better by our parents with that support. And they're thankful for that option, but we still know those students, we just want them to have that interaction. So it's huge for us. We all use community resources from the ISD, Gabby's Ladder, mental health, Catholic Charities. We have so many, I don't mean to leave anyone out, we have so many great resources. We have counselors in each building that are continually doing wraparound approaches for our students with community resources as well. And every district is doing the same. Anything that we have shared up here, our partners in other districts that aren't here today are doing the same thing. So you can be rest assured in the audience, if you're in a different school district, it's there. Sometimes you don't know about it because we're working so hard behind the scenes, trying not to draw attention to it and presenting it in a way that's mainstream. And again, our curriculum is built for that, and that's, I think, why we fight so hard for those electives, because that rounds out our curriculum.
Thanks, Steve. I know you're going to wrap up here, and when Sandy was talking, it made me think about a plug I wanted to put in while we had this particular audience. At Whiteford, and again, I know it's happening in all school districts too, we have work-based learning opportunities for our students. And I can tell you, because of the pandemic, I am struggling to find those opportunities for students because employers are not willing to take on students because of COVID and insurance reasons and things like that. And it is really, it's really sad to see these kids that were very excited about, doing some job shadowing or internships or really getting out in the workforce and seeing what it's all about. And employers need that. They need that interaction with students. And I know you guys are always looking for employees and future employees. And so if there's any way that, local employers could think outside the box, like we have thought outside the box in education, to really think about ways that we can still provide those opportunities to our students, and you can welcome our students into your employment places by still following all the COVID rules and mitigation strategies and things like that. Those are the ways that we're able to really help help our students' mental health and get them out of the social isolation and give them those opportunities. I'm so sad that I feel like we are stealing so many opportunities. COVID is stealing opportunities from our kids that we're all fighting for every day. And I just wanted to communicate to the chamber that if there are employers out there that are still willing to take students for job internships, job shadowing, and things like that, please reach out to your local superintendent. I know at Whiteford I am desperate right now for an engineering spot for a student who wants to be a mechanical engineer, a student who wants to go into culinary, and I'm really striking out when it comes to finding employers that are willing just to provide real short 3, 4, 5-week job shadowing experiences because they don't want anybody else on their campus. And I get it. We don't let anybody else on our campus either. But if there's any way to do it, I wanted to ask. So thank you for allowing me that, Steve.
We want to be respectful of your time. I want to thank our panelists. I think Kelly, Sandy, Val, and Michael. I know what they have to look forward to when they leave here because I see Kelly's phone right here, and her phone has been blowing up since she sat down, and I know the rest of us are dealing with the same thing. So there are some sponsors that I'd like to thank before we close things out this morning. I'd like to thank Lazy Boy. I'd like to thank Monroe County Community Credit Union. I'd like to thank Moore Buds Attorneys. I know Matthew was here, and I also want to thank Mike Trapp and our sponsor this morning here, our venue sponsor, Raisin Center for the Arts. So with that being said, thank you for giving us some of your time this morning, and everybody stay safe and do your part to help mitigate COVID-19. Thank you so much.